He comes up to me and says, my girlfriend broke up with me. I can't buy this ring no longer.
He changed his mind again and again.
Did you break up with this girl?
Never.
Is this the lady?
Yes, this is Holly.
Did you get her another ring?
No, but I've done a lot of looking since then.
I'm sure she appreciates you looking.
Party's on Hermanson versus Moss. Step forward, please.
27-year-old physical therapist David Hermanson says Secretary Rhonda Moss won't return the money he paid her for a wedding ring. She says he changed his mind too many times.
Order, all rise. Judges, number 127 on the calendar in the matter of Hermanson versus Moss. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Hermanson.
Yes, ma'am.
You work in the same office as the defendant.
I used to.
At the time of this incident,
yes,
you're working in the same office. And you at that time fell in love, not with the defendant,
no,
but with somebody else.
Yes.
And wanted to buy an engagement ring.
Yes, Your Honor.
She had a ring to sell.
Correct.
Said, I want to take a look at it, I want to think about it. Took it home, thought about it, returned it.
Yes.
Then a while later, you decided, well, maybe I do want it.
Mm-hmm.
So you told her you wanted it back.
Right. And gave her $300 as a good faith deposit to hold while I took the ring.
For a second time?
Yes.
And then what happened?
Well, I brought the ring to be appraised at a very nice, very good jewelry store in St. Louis, one of the best. He told me the ring was not at all worth what Rhonda claimed it was. I thanked him. I brought the ring back. I gave it to Rhonda. At the time, I did not ask for my $300 back.
Why?
She was very irate. She wanted me to buy the ring. She was in a bad mood, and I never for a moment suspected that she would keep my money.
So you gave her back the ring and you didn't get your money back?
Correct.
And how long did that go on?
Well, later on the same day, Your Honor, I started thinking about it, and I thought, hey, I better get my money back. And I approached Rhonda, who at that time told me I gave the check to my mother, who takes care of all of my expenses, and I had to pay my bills for it with the money. Furthermore, I called my bank, and I found out Rhonda cashed my check the day before I even gave her the ring back.
Because she anticipated that you were buying this ring.
No. I told her that I would have it appraised and let her know the next day, which I did.
What was the total purchase price, by the way?
The price was never firmly fixed, but somewhere over $1,000.
Now, why didn't you take it to have it appraised the first time you had the ring? What'd you do with it the first time you had the ring?
I took it home and I thought about it, and I was really indecisive. I took my time, maybe a week, thinking about it, talking to Holly, my girlfriend, and trying to get an idea of what kind of ring she would like.
And you're telling me that you didn't have it appraised during the week?
Not the first week, no.
And then you took it a second time?
Yes.
That's when you decided to have it appraised?
Yes.
Now, what exactly did you say to her when you took the ring the second time?
I said, Rhonda, I'm not really sure, but I think I might want to buy that ring again. If you'll give it to me again, I will take it and have it appraised, and this time I will let you know for certain whether I want it or not. And if I want it, I will promptly pay you for it. We had negotiated a price of $800 at that point.
So the second time you had negotiated a purchase price?
I believe $800, Your Honor, yes.
Okay. Ms. Moss, let's hear your version.
Oh, my version's slightly different than his. It was before Christmas time, and he had fallen in love with this girl after knowing her for only 4 weeks. And he was all uptight because he couldn't get any place to finance.
See how quiet she was?
Yes.
He couldn't get anybody to finance an engagement ring for him. So I was kidding around, telling him I'm going through a divorce. I'd be gladly to sell you mine. And nothing else was really said that day, but the next day he came up to me in the morning and goes, I really thought about what you said. I would like to buy your ring. Could you go get it for me?
You mean he didn't say to you, I would like to see the ring?
No, he just said he would like to buy it. Could I go get it for him? And I
Okay.
said, well, the ring is at my parents' house, and that's, you know, a half hour away. You know, I really can't do it today. He pressured me all morning long. Finally, I said, okay, out of the kindness of my heart, I'll drive out to Gray Summit on my lunch break and pick up that ring for you. So I did. I drove out there. It took an hour. I came back, showed him the ring, and he said, do you mind if I take it and have it appraised? And I finally said, yeah, but he gave me a $1,000 check because he took the ring, and he asked me how much it was worth, and I told him what I had paid for it.
How much did you pay for it?
Approximately $2,400, but I would sell it to him for $18,000. So he took the ring, told me not to cash the check for, I think it was approximately about a week. So he had the ring for a week or so, and then came back and said, you know, I don't think I want this ring. It wasn't as much as worth as much as what you had said. He gave me the ring back, and I gave him this $1,000 check. The next morning, my pager goes off 3 times before I go to work, and it was his voice on there. Please, Rhonda, I've changed my mind. I really want that ring. Could you bring it in for me? You know, 3 pages right in a row. So I did. I brought that ring back in for him. And at that time, he is, you know, all upset because his finances weren't that well and that he really couldn't pay $1,800 for it. But we made an agreement. I said, I'll sell it to you for $1,000. At that time, he couldn't give me $1,000. So he handed me a check for $300 and told me not to cash it till Monday. That Monday came along, I cashed the check and paid bills that I needed to pay with it. He comes up to me and says, my girlfriend broke up with me.
On Monday?
On Monday, after I had cashed the check. I can't buy this ring no longer. I'm like, I'm sorry, we made an agreement. You know, that's it. And later on that day, he came into my office very irate and mean, walked into my office shaking and telling me, you got to give me that money back. And he had me frightened. And then from that point on, he wouldn't speak to me. He'd just come up to me and look at me like, you know, he'd kill me.
So now you have the ring and it's $300.
Well, the ring is missing. All this time since I've been separated, I kept the ring at my parents' house in a safe place. Now with all this hassle, I couldn't tell you what happened to it.
All this hassle was he gave you back the ring, madam. That's not all this hassle. He gave you back the ring. So you have the ring and his $300. So even if I said you have to give him back the ring and he's got to pay for it, according to you, you can't do that.
No,
Is that right?
No, I cannot.
I don't believe you. I don't believe that you don't know where this ring is. In any event, you're entitled to your $300 back.
Thank you.
But Mr. Hermanson, just for my own curious information, did you break up with this girl?
Never. And I would...
Is this the lady?
Yes, this is Holly.
Did you get her another ring?
No, but I've done a lot of looking since then.
I'm sure she appreciates you looking.
David Hermanson says Secretary Rhonda Moss won't return the money he paid her for a wedding ring.
Listen, Mr. Hermanson, let me tell you a couple of things that I don't find logical, sir. I don't find logical that you had the ring in your possession for 1 week and you didn't take the ring to have it appraised during the week that you had the ring, but took it to be appraised during the 2 days that you had it over a weekend. That doesn't make sense to me. Irrespective of that, she can't keep the ring and your $300. And she has the ring, and she's lying to me when she says she doesn't know where it is. I don't believe that. So you're entitled to your $300 back. You got it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $300. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
In my purse when I was in my office. That's the last time I saw the ring.
I never lied, I never stole, but the person I was suing basically lied and stole from me.
A war over videotape of the funeral of the late rap star Eazy-E.
When did he die?
95. I had done business with him for years. He was starting to act a little funny, and I needed some type of insurance because I didn't quite trust him.
He's a liar.
Okay.
Got a lot of nerves.
Versus McDaniel. Step forward, please.
47-year-old filmmaker Jimmy James claims 32-year-old filmmaker Matthew McDaniel didn't pay him for footage used in Matthew's movie about rapper Eazy-E.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 140 on the calendar in the matter of James versus McDaniel. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Copyright infringement is not my strong suit. But there's got to be a common sense answer to this. You two gentlemen are filmmakers, is that right?
Yes.
Whose funeral?
Eazy-E's a rapper, a star.
Okay. And you wanted to use some of his footage in some sort of documentary that you were making.
That's correct.
What was the agreement that you had with him?
Well, the agreement was that I wanted $100, but
$100 a what?
a second.
$100 a second. That's more than I make. Go ahead.
Well, anyway,
You sure? You sure?
Go ahead.
anyway, I was covering a funeral of Eazy-E, and I called Matthew and I told him I had some footage of Eazy funeral, and he said, "Great, Dad. You know, I'm getting ready to work on a documentary on Eazy." And I said, "Great." And I said, "If you want to use some of the footage, I would sell it to you. Just let me know what part you need." So what I did, I used a half-inch tape.
Just a second. You agreed to sell him what you did for $100 a second.
Right.
How many seconds did you use?
About 5 seconds.
You say you used 5 seconds. Did you agree to pay him $100 a second?
Absolutely not.
What do you say you agreed to pay him?
I told him I needed a few seconds of the footage, and we agreed on $250.
Now, am I correct that you say you had an agreement, some sort of written agreement?
Yeah, I had him sign a general release the day before the program aired.
Let me see it. You remember signing this general release, sir?
I signed a release. There wasn't anything on it, but just a couple of lines on there. And that's when we got into an argument. I asked him, "Where's the logo?" Because that logo wasn't on there when I signed it. And a lot of stuff on there wasn't on there. And that release...
Not true.
Shh, just a minute. Mr. James, you're in business, right?
Right.
You don't sign something that's in blank unless all the blanks are filled in. Just for the future. Future reference. You don't sign this unless it's all filled in.
But I was at a disadvantage. My car had broke down. I needed money. He knew that. I told him that. He attacked me with the money. "Well, you should come and take the money because you need your car fixed and sign it. The only way that you would get paid is you sign this," before they put it on the air. Then he had edited everything before it was
If you
aired.
hadn't signed the release, sir, he couldn't have used it.
The release wasn't signed.
Listen to what I'm saying to you, sir. He needed your release. And all I'm saying to you, I don't know why you're arguing with me. You think I'm wrong when I say to you, as a business person, you don't sign documents where there are blanks. Am I right?
Right.
Period. Mr. James, when you signed this release, did he give you any money?
He gave me $250.
Okay.
But that's not what we agreed on.
Just a
He said he
second.
was going to pay me the rest of the money after he get the money from the record company. He got the money and didn't even pay me. He didn't even call me or anything.
The day that you signed this release, did you get money? The answer is yes.
Yeah, I got $250.
And you
but
took
it was
the-
a due of another $250.
That's what you say. He says no. He says that you had agreed on $250.
He's a liar.
Okay, I'll prove to you that everything I'm telling you is accurate. First of all, it should have been $250 on that release, and it should have said what it was for.
Absolutely.
Now, that was before the program aired, and he knows how this works. When I get paid, he gets paid. This time, it took a little longer than usual, but they paid me. I called him up, and then that's when he's talking about $500 and all this stuff, and I said, no way. It's not going to happen. You can take me to court. You can do what you want to do.
Did you pay him by check?
I paid him cash and got a receipt on his company letterhead.
Let me see it.
He came over and apologized after we had had an argument, took the cash. Then 2 days later, he calls me talking about I owe him a beta tape, something crazy, and he wanted more money. So, you know, you can see on there clearly, I didn't force him to take the money or sign
Mr. James, you signed this. Paid in full, $250 cash. You signed it.
Yeah, but we were supposed to get back together when he can owe me another $250.
It says paid in full.
But he still owe me money.
Sir. You see this receipt?
Yes.
It says paid in full. Has your name on it. It was all written at the same time. Why did you sign something that says
For,
paid in full,
for 5
$250?
seconds, he used, I have a tape to prove he used 18 seconds of my footage. He still owed me money for the footage that he didn't pay me for.
What was the date that it aired?
March 26th,
March-
6:30 p.m.
March 26th. Did you see it, sir?
Yes,
Did
I
you see-
taped it.
Let me just see this, because I'm curious.
May I see something right quick?
No, you don't have to say anything, sir.
Okay.
This is not, we're not reinventing the wheel here. This is not a very difficult case. The program aired in March. You signed a receipt in May of 1998, paid in full. You just testified, Mr. James, that you had, I don't care whether it says 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Is this your piece of the funeral?
Yeah.
I think Easy's death changed.
Okay. What you're saying, sir, is that that piece was more than 5 seconds.
Right.
All right. And what I'm telling you is, if that piece aired in March, you signed a receipt for payment in full May, 2 months later.
Jimmy James says Matthew McDaniel didn't pay for all the footage he used in a 30-minute film on rapper Eazy-E's life.
What did you do? Slow motion that, sir?
Slow-moed it, yeah.
I assume that that's what you did because it looked like it was going in slow motion. So I don't know how many seconds was it in real time and how many seconds was it in slow motion time. It really doesn't make any difference, Mr. James. You signed a receipt paid in full.
For 5
In May. Paid in full. Your lawsuit's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I said, big fat bear, you. You're a dog. You know, you're a rip-off person. You know that? This is not over with. I'm going after him in the record company because I didn't give them permission to use 12 seconds of my footage that I did not get paid for. We had agreement. He's a liar.
Parties on McKnight Robinson versus Robinson. Step forward, please.
27-year-old accountant V.L. McKnight Robinson says her estranged husband, 29-year-old Brian Robinson, assaulted her and refuses to pay back money she loaned him.
Mrs. Robinson, you married the defendant in 1997, according to your complaint. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are suing him for some loans that you allegedly made to him during the course of your marriage.
Yes, ma'am.
And also for an assault.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why don't you tell me about the loans first?
Well, in my profession, I do a lot of traveling with my job because I also own my own collection agency. So for my purpose of making more money, I decided to relocate the family to Chicago, which is where we grew up. And when he got to Chicago with me and my family, he wasn't able to find a job. So it was very painful to see him go through things and not being able to have money of his own. So I said, what are you going to do? I mean, he says, well, I'm going to try to work. And I'm like, well, you're not looking hard enough for me. And he's like, well, okay, I'll go to school. So I said, where are you going to go to school? And he's like, I'll go to some technical school. He then started school in November of '97, and he needed money to get the tools that was necessary because
What kind of technical school was this?
Auto diesel mechanic.
How much in total did you give him for school?
A little bit over $1,100.
And you say there was an understanding that he was supposed to repay you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right, sir?
We had an understanding, but my belief is that I shouldn't have to pay her back anything because we were married. I figured one person should help the other.
Okay. But was your understanding, as she indicated, that these were loans?
She said they were loans, but it's like...
Let me stop you right there. She said they were loans. She said, I will loan you the money. Is that what she said?
Correct.
And you took the money.
I did.
But now it's your position that since you were married, it couldn't have been a loan. Is that your position?
I don't feel that I owe her for us trying to build a life together. That's basically, that's all my position is.
But right now, Mr. Robinson, you're not building a life together. You're separated, and you're going to get a divorce. Right?
That's probably true.
So that if I take your position as accurate, reasonable, and if you were standing here as two people who were living together, building a life together, and she was suing you for the money she said she loaned to you, I might say, well, you know, he's got the point to that. They're building a life together. She's going to benefit from his trade, right? because
Right.
she'll be working, bringing in money, supporting the household. But right now, she's not going to benefit at all from the $1,100 she lent you. How's she going to benefit from that?
At this point, she cannot benefit from it.
All right. So that's the bulk of the money that you claim in here that he owes you, other than for the assault, correct?
Actually, from the assault, I had the medical bills, and then also, because also he wasn't working, and his mother came to stay with us in my house for Christmas season, and he says, well, sweetheart, you know, I don't have any money to buy my mom anything. He says, I promise I'll pay you back. And I said, well, what kind of money are you talking about? He says, whatever I see I like for her, I'll pick up, and you charge it so I know how much I owe you back.
So how much did you charge for your mother?
Close to 300, maybe a little more. I mean,
How much did he charge for his mother?
It was a little bit over 300, almost closer to 4.
And that was your arrangement, that you were going to pay her back for that?
yes, it was.
All right, let's get to the assault, please. I want to hear about this assault because the bulk of the money that you're suing for is really for not only your medical bills for the assault, but also for the fact that he assaulted you to begin with.
Right.
So let me hear about that.
When I told him I wasn't giving him any more money, he's like, well, I already got my money that you gave me for my March tuition, but you said that you're going to continue to help me through school no matter what. And I said, yes, but the condition was that you was going to work and try to help yourself too. And it got to the point where he blocked me into my kitchen the way that my house is cut. And I said, well, just get out of my face. I don't want to talk anymore. I'm not going to change my mind.
That is not the way that happened.
I'll let you tell your side of the story, sir.
Okay.
And I pushed him out of my way because he's, without my heels, he's much taller than me. And I pushed him out my way. I said, I'm not going to talk about it. So I went to my room, and he came after me. He waited about 5-10 minutes. He's like, well, we need to talk about this because after this, I'm going to need money for this because he never had money to give back and forth to school. And I said, I'm just not going to do it. So he grabbed me under my arms, which left a bruise, and you're just going to give me what I need. And I said, no, I'm not. So when we started pushing and shoving, which was in front of my 2 smaller kids, he pushed me up against the wall and held me by my throat and popped me in my left eye. And it.
Brian Robinson admits to hitting his estranged wife, V.L. Robinson. She wants him to pay her medical bills and loans.
You have a photograph?
Yes, ma'am.
I see it, please. You went to the emergency room of the hospital at the same
Yes,
day, on the same day?
Well, not the same day because I don't drive, and because of the condition of my eye, I couldn't drive.
So when did you go? The next day?
I went the very next day. My sisters came and got me.
All right, sir. How'd she get a black eye?
When I went to leave out the door, she grabbed me by my arm and she pulled me back into the door. And I stood in the door and I pushed her back inside the door because I asked her not to embarrass me while I was coming outside. I left the house. When I came back into the house that evening, she grabbed me by my arm again, and I asked her not to touch me. When she slapped me in my face, that's when I grabbed her. I grabbed her and I pushed her to the ground, and that's when I hit her. But other than that, it could have been resolved. I mean, I asked her to talk about it. I asked her not to even grab me or to touch me the way that she was doing.
Mr. Robinson, how old are you, sir?
I'm 29.
When was the last time you held down a full-time job?
In July.
And how long did you have that job?
I had the job for 2 months because the company was small and it didn't
Prior to
produce
the
much
2
money.
months of holding down a full-time job, during the marriage, when did you hold down a full-time job?
Before we moved back to Chicago.
You can understand her frustration, can't you?
Yes, ma'am, I can, but
So, I mean, what did you do all day, sir?
the reason I went to school was so that I could have a better way of looking for a job where I wouldn't have to go out and search and work temporary and part-time jobs.
Well, let me ask you
And
this
that's the
question,
reason-
Mr. Robinson. Do you have children?
Yes, we have one child together.
And this technical school that you were going to, what were the hours of your technical school?
8 to 2:30.
Okay. You know what I think? Sir, if you go to school from 8 to 2:30, at 3 o'clock you should be at a job so that you are employed and assisting and bringing home money to assistant support yourself and your child.
That is true. But
So why didn't you do that?
I worked at a grocery store for $5 an hour.
Yes.
I worked at a grocery store, and all I heard was complaints from her as to how much money I was making.
Just a second. Did you ever complain that he wasn't earning enough money doing this part-time work?
Because I did, and I'm going to say yes, and that's because when he got his check was $80. By the time he cashed it, it was $70-something. By the time he bought his little trinkets that men get, cigarettes, beer, all that, he would come to me by the time tuition time came around. Hey, where's my tuition money? But didn't you just get a check?
That's not true.
It is true.
That is not
It
true.
is true. It is true.
All right, look,
And
it is clear, it
ridiculous.
is absolutely clear to me that this marriage is going nowhere but to the courts eventually. Mr. Robinson, you clearly made an agreement with your wife to pay her back certain monies that she advanced to you for the school and certainly for things that you bought for your mother. You also, sir, put your hands on her, and she was pretty seriously injured according to the emergency room report. You can't do that. That's unacceptable. Are you working now?
I do odds and end jobs on people's cars. And before I did not have the full knowledge that I have now to do these things, and now, you know, it's getting better for me.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm really pleased that you're getting yourself a profession. You're preparing yourself so that you have a profession where you can earn a living. In
And
the
that's
meantime,
all I've been trying to do.
in the
I
me-
mean,
You're 29 years old, sir. You're supposed to be at the earning stage in your life, you know, not at the learning stage in your life.
That's true.
Thank you.
You got to, you know, there comes a time you got to grow up.
Everybody makes mistakes, and I have made mistakes, and I do try to make up for my mistakes.
How long have you been separated? Since March?
Yes.
How much money have you given her to support your child?
I gave her $125 when I sold my vehicle to help her pay for some of her bills. I did give her that money, and she knows she can't deny it.
Well, he gave me that after 3 weeks after he was gone. But our daughter's birthday just passed, and he didn't get her anything. Didn't even call her.
Listen, sir, if you're doing odds and ends jobs, I assume that you're doing odds and ends jobs for cash?
Yes.
Good. You better start saving your cash. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,000. Thank you, that's all.
Judge.
Parties are excused. You may step out. The party's on Satowski versus Baxter. Step forward, please.
24-year-old waitress Natalie Satowski is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old bouncer Les Baxter, for wrecking her Mustang and leaving her without paying the rent. Les says it was a minor accident and she wrecked it afterwards.
Order. All rise. Yeah, it's case number 137 on the calendar in the matter of Satowski versus Baxter. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Okay, the romance is over, and you say he owes you some money.
Yes.
You lived together for how long?
About 1 year total.
And you moved into an apartment together, according to the papers.
Yes, we did.
And so you're complaining about two things. First, that he moved out 2 months early, leaving you with the rent for 2 months, right?
Correct.
And then you say he drove and damaged your car.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the car first.
Okay.
During what period of time did you live together? From what month and year to what month and year?
I'd say probably 95, the end of 95 to the end of 96.
And tell me about this car incident. When did it happen?
It happened the early summer that I met him. I had known him for 3 months. He asked to borrow my car, brought it back about 2 hours later. It was a sunny summer day, and he said, I have something to show you. So I went outside, we looked at the car, and I was going to report it to my insurance company, but he said, I want to pay for it. He said, I wouldn't feel right unless I paid for it. And I said, fine.
Well, what was wrong with the car?
He rear-ended a van on I-5.
Mm-hmm.
The hood's damaged. I have estimates here, 2 estimates.
Did you ever have the car fixed?
No.
This was the summer of 1995. Is that what you're telling me? What? You said it was in the summer before you moved in together. That had to be the summer of 1995.
Okay.
So now we're in the summer of 1998. Where have you been for 3 years?
Well, we dated for a year, and I've been trying to contact Les and work out some kind of...
This happened in the summertime. You didn't get the car fixed. Let's say it happened in the late summertime, in August. August, September, October, November, December. Then in December of 95, you moved in together. What happened to the car?
I drove it. It was just that he said that he would pay for it. We were in a relationship. I trusted him. And it just, he didn't show any kind of, he would borrow money from me on many occasions, small amounts, and always pay me back. But that large amount, I mean, it's about $1,300 in damage. So I didn't expect him to just come up with the money right away. So after our...
Mr. Towski.
Yes.
My sense is that during the time that you were together, from the summer of 1995 until December of 1996, you didn't expect him to come up with this money at all. It just doesn't sound logical to me that for a year and a half, 6 months after this happened and you moved in together, nothing happened with this car.
I would have reported it to my insurance company if he said that he wouldn't feel right unless he paid for it.
Okay. Now, let's get to the second issue, and then I'm going to turn this over to you, Mr. Baxter. He moved out 2 months before the lease was up.
Yes. 1 month.
1 month. So he owes you half of 1 month's rent.
Yes.
And how much was that rent? $600?
$610.
$610. And you were paying half that rent, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's $305.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So tell me why you don't think that you owe her half of the last month's rent, which would have been $305. Yes.
I told her in December that I couldn't handle her lifestyle, and so I was moving out sometime early January, and then I did. I was out January 5th.
Did you pay her for January?
Not at all.
Well, you stayed there part of January.
5 days.
So what?
Yeah.
I mean, she couldn't get somebody else. She couldn't get somebody else to come into the apartment. You know, to.
All my stuff was out.
When did you move your body out of that apartment, sir?
When did I give her the keys physically?
Yes.
The 5th of January.
Okay. Now let me hear about this car, because I'm really not impressed with her story,
Okay.
but let's hear your story about the car.
Mm-hmm.
Did you damage her car?
Slightly, yes.
Okay. And did you tell her you were going to pay for the damage?
I told her that I'd pay the deductible, and then she told me that the insurance was lapsed because she didn't pay it, and then it became a $1,500
That is so
bill.
untrue.
Just a second. You said you would pay the deductible?
Yeah, of what it would cost to fix the car. But she said there was no insurance, and now it became a $1,500 bill. And then I'm like, all right, well, let's get 3 estimates. We got 1 estimate from a friend's shop, and I think they were under the impression that they were going to be paying for an insurance deal, so they were giving high rates. So they were replacing everything: bumper, hood, shocks, struts, all the different components to the suspension and steering system.
Well, I'm going to see your estimate. Can I see the estimate, please?
They only give you estimates for what's been damaged.
Let me just see the estimate, please.
Okay. I had insurance at the time.
Why wasn't this taken care of during the year that you were living together?
Well, I was going to pay the deductible, but now that I was trying to come up with a $1,500 bill, of which was all replacement, not fixing. Fixing was buffing out the bumper, which there were about 6 to 10 scratches on, and a slightly bent hood. I wasn't going to pay for a dent that happened while she was at work, that happened on her left fender, and I was not going to fix the fact that she took her car into a ditch during an ice storm.
That was after the accident, Les. That was after the estimates. That was the first accident.
Mr. Towski, he says that one of the problems is that you've had a major accident with the car since this happened.
Uh-huh. Correct.
Now, after you had this major accident with the car, did you have it fixed?
No.
So you've had 2 accidents with the car, and you haven't had the car fixed for either one?
Correct.
Okay. You split up in December of 1996. What did you do for the whole first year? Why didn't you file a small claims court claim against him immediately after you broke up?
I didn't want to go to court. I thought that there was some way that we could work out a payment plan that I wouldn't have to take it to this level.
So, but you waited over 2.5 years to pursue this. I mean, something doesn't
Well, in the
sit right with
meantime,
me.
I got married. I mean, I do have a life besides just collecting money from Les.
Natalie Sitowski wants her former boyfriend, Les Baxter, to pay her money for rent and a wrecked Mustang.
Let me see pictures of the car. You don't deny that there was some damage to the car?
There was some slight damage, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, in my estimation...
On the bumper?
Yeah.
I see something on the bumper.
Yeah, there's some slight scratches on the bumper right between the grill.
There are cracks.
And I see, did you smash a front headlight?
No.
Yes, you did.
Hey!
I didn't smash it. I replaced it.
You replaced the one, you actually went and to a shop and replaced it?
Yes, I also replaced the 2 bulbs underneath where the 2 lights are.
That had nothing to do with the wreck.
What was the deductible that you were under the impression she had as insurance?
I estimated the maximum deductible would be $500.
All the time that you were living together, sir, had you discussed paying for this car, paying for the damage?
Yeah, I wanted her to get some more estimates because I thought
But you were living together. You were sharing the same bed. You were eating 3 meals a day together. So during the year's time, how much time did you devote to talking about this?
She brought it up probably 5 or 6 times out of the whole 1.5 years that we were together.
And what was your response when she brought it up?
I'm like, well, I'll pay for it when you give me another estimate because I think it's a little too high, and I also feel that, you know, there should have been insurance done. But there was no insurance.
Mr. Baxter, she doesn't have insurance.
Right.
But you wrecked the car. I mean, you
Okay.
damaged the car. You didn't wreck it. She's been driving it for 3 years without having it fixed.
Right.
After either accident, she hadn't had it fixed.
Right.
So the fact that she didn't have, or said she didn't have insurance to cover it, it's really not the issue. You want to say something?
I had insurance. He didn't even know what the deductible was because I didn't even know. I mean, this whole insurance...
Let me tell you what I know, Ms. Sitowski.
Okay.
Under the circumstances of this case, I find it relatively bizarre that 3 years have gone by before you pursue this action. 2 years after you're no longer living together. That after he had this accident, before you were living together, you moved in together, you shared the same bed, you shared the same house, you took an apartment together, and didn't resolve this issue. And you waited until after you're married. You're the husband?
Yes.
After you're married, how long are you married?
A year.
A year after you're married to pursue something that happened 3 years ago. I find that kind of bizarre. And I've also looked at the pictures of the damage to the car. I don't have 3 estimates. I only have 1 estimate.
You have 2.
Well, I have one that superimposes. Some damage is on one, some damage is on the other. I don't have 2 separate estimates. I have one for $1,300.
You have 2.
What I'm saying to you is, I don't understand why it took you 3 years and driving the car and having another accident to pursue this claim. I haven't a clue.
I didn't want to go to
why.
court. That's why.
I'm giving you $500 to buff out, paint up the car, do whatever you like with it, and $305, which is your share of the last month's rent. Understood? Mm-hmm. That's a total of $805. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $805. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I can't believe this.
I couldn't understand why she waited so long. I talked to her, I told her I wanted the estimates, and I hadn't heard from her since, and that was last June.
He's a liar and a deadbeat. He lied and got away with it.
All parties on Eckert versus Fenton. Step forward, please.
27-year-old Bryce Eckert is suing his former best friend, 25-year-old Brad Fenton, for crashing his motorcycle. Brad is countersuing for medical bills and injuries from the crash.
You two were best friends. You were visiting and staying with him for a while in his house?
Yes, Your Honor, I have.
And you have a motorcycle.
Yes, I do.
You decided you wanted to ride in the motorcycle.
Bryce was actually pulling it out of the garage and decided that he was going to let me have a crack at
What do you mean? He
riding the
just
motorcycle.
You wanted to ride on the motorcycle.
Yes.
I knew we'd get to it. So you get on this motorcycle and you do a couple of wheelies and the motorcycle goes out of control and you wreck it.
In a nutshell, yes, that's right.
That's what I'm here for in a nutshell. You're suing, you want him to pay for it.
Yes, ma'am.
The damage.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds right? Sounds
yes.
fair?
Oh, yes.
He wrote it, he wrecked it, he should pay for it.
Yes, ma'am.
That I understand. Your defense, I don't understand.
Okay.
Your defense is that you are so furious with him for his negligence that you want him to pay for all your medical bills and your scars and the injuries that you suffered as a result of that accident. So you're countersuing him.
Correct.
Explain me.
Due to the fact that this is a dual sport or dual use type motorcycle, he has an insurance policy on it that would cover my medical bills as an operator or a passenger.
Mm-hmm.
Had it been a solely used dirt machine or off-road machine, then
So
it
your
might be a little bit
complaint
different
is, because
story.
I read this, your complaint is since he has insurance, he should have put this claim into his insurance
Yes, of course.
that would have covered not only the damage to the motorcycle, but also your medical bills. Right?
Right.
27-year-old Bryce Euchert is suing his former best friend, 25-year-old Brad Fenton, for crashing his motorcycle. Brad is countersuing for medical bills and injuries from the crash.
Well, first I'm going to let you tell me why you didn't want to put this into your insurance.
Because I have a perfect, driving record on the insurance as far as it is right now. And if I'd have put it through, it would have cost me more every month on my insurance.
Absolutely right.
There's no reason for me to do that.
Absolutely right. I just wanted you to say it. If he put it into his insurance, which I'm sure he explained to you, that means that his premiums would go up probably for the next 5 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Why should he do that?
When it initially happened, he had agreed that the only thing we should replace would have been the handlebars. Oh, don't worry, I was primarily concerned with the motorcycle the second that it happened. He said, don't worry about it, sit down, you look at you, you're bleeding all over the place.
Well, he's a friend.
He had said, we're just going to take care of the handlebars, let's just leave it at that since we're friends. Then he goes down and gets estimates on it, full dollar amount estimates with labor and materials, tax, everything, to get the bike fixed.
That's because you wrecked it.
Well, you took a pretty bad spill on it because you said you were pretty badly injured.
Well, as the bike was going down, I took it upon myself to hit the ground first and go underneath it to try to protect it.
So you don't even think about that when you're going down.
I did.
So let me ask you this, sir. You want me to consider your counterclaim for $5,000 for your pain and suffering and injury for an accident that you caused?
On his property. I mean, he basically handed me the bike and said, yes, ride the bike, go ahead. He's taken the liability of my getting injured.
Let's talk about
himself.
responsibility. First of all, why don't you pass up the estimates for the bike? I wish all the cases I had were so easy. Mr. Fenton, you have to take responsibility for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So you're responsible for any damage that you caused to the bike. He's not responsible for your injuries. Sure, he could put this into his insurance company. Why should he suffer any damage, any detriment now or down the line with increased premiums because of your foolishness?
As a friend, I thought that given that we had been friends for such amount of time, I figured we could eventually work it out.
What do you mean work it out? What does that mean?
Buy the handlebars, put the handlebars on.
I said to you, could you answer my question? We're not going to get away from my question. My question was, originally you weren't planning on suing him for your injuries.
No, and I didn't think he was going to file on me
Just
either.
a second. The answer is no. So originally he was concerned about... I'm not letting you talk a lot. Is that all right with you?
That's fine with me. Go with it.
Thank you.
That's my line.
Originally, when he looked at you, his friend laying there on the ground bleeding, he really wasn't concerned about anything else, I assume, but you. That's what you just said.
Yes, I did say that.
Right? So originally he was just concerned with you, but after it was all over and he took a look at his bike and he saw what you did to the bike, he says you should fix it. Then you said to him, that's what you have insurance for. Is that what happened?
In a nutshell, kind of.
Oh, it's so glad I have life's experience.
I've got 2 estimates there.
What was the cheapest?
The lowest one's the one I went for. I didn't go for the high one.
So what was that altogether?
There was One for 420, plus there was a plastic cover that goes over the front disc brake that was damaged, and that's the other small estimate. That was for like 30 some odd dollars, so it came in for like 454.
Okay. Did you have it fixed yet?
No, I haven't. The bike's still sitting in the garage. I bought a new set of handlebars for it just for that sole purpose, so I could ride it. And I put the new handlebars on. I've ridden it maybe once or twice since I put them on. It's just cosmetically, the bike is you know, messed up now. There was only one scratch on the bike when I bought it, you know, from my landlord, and that was up on the sticker on the front cowl.
How much did you pay for the bike when you bought it from your landlord?
$1,200.
How long before this accident did you purchase the bike?
Maybe, what, 3 months, 4 months? Not even that.
He had it a short time. You paid $1,200 for it, and to fix it and put it back in the condition that it was before he did a wheelie on it, it'll cost you $450?
Yes, ma'am. Good.
$450, judgment for the plaintiff. Countersuit is dismissed, sir. It's nonsense.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was not a smart idea to have your girlfriend serve your wife with court papers.
I agree.
In fact, it triggered a family fight, and a mother-in-law got pepper sprayed.
I was burned all the way down here, and it caused blisters.
And it looks to me, unless you two grandmothers get your acts in gear, they're going to make these 3 grandchildren emotional cripples.
Parties on Stapp versus Bird. Step forward, please.
Emergency room assistant Linda Stapp claims former in-law Lorraine Bird, a healthcare worker, burned her face with pepper spray. She wants her medical bills paid, plus pain and suffering.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 139 on the calendar in the matter of Stapp versus Bird. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
You two ladies are related by marriage.
That's correct. Yes.
Your son is married to your daughter,
Yes,
who's not here today.
that's true.
According to this complaint, the kids are divorcing, and they have 3 children.
That's
How
correct.
old are your grandchildren?
5, 4, and 2.
Is there a court order of visitation now for your son?
Yes, there is.
I assumed that there was, and in the papers it says that he has supervised visitation. Is that right?
That's correct.
Step up here, sir. Why do you have supervised visitation?
It's just what the court ordered.
Was there a hearing in the family court before supervised visitation was ordered?
Yes, ma'am. There is a domestic violence issue.
So it's because of the domestic violence issue that supervised visitation was ordered, and you're supposed to supervise the visitation.
That's correct.
So according to this complaint, that on April 18th of this year, your son had the 3 children unsupervised.
That's correct.
And there was an altercation when he returned the children. You came with your daughter to pick up the children
That's correct.
and sprayed mace.
Yes. Only on Mike.
Well, you say only on Michael, but inadvertently, perhaps,
Yeah.
it hit the plaintiff and it caused her some severe burning. And that's what you're suing for.
That's correct. But that's not what happened.
So let's start at the beginning. What were you doing with the children unsupervised?
Me and Lori had a verbal agreement that it'd be all right that I'd take the kids without my mom for the day.
To a barbecue.
Where were you going?
We went to a barbecue.
And you had discussed this with Lori before?
Yes, ma'am.
Lori's your wife.
Wife, yes.
Your hours of visitation end at 6 o'clock, according
Yes.
to these papers.
Yes.
But you didn't bring the children home at 6 o'clock.
No, I called from the barbecue and asked her if it'd be all right if I returned a couple hours late, which was at 8 o'clock, and that's what time I arrived.
Had you been drinking?
I had 1 beer at the barbecue.
You're not supposed to have any beers at the barbecue if you're with your children. Right?
Yes.
So you were bringing your children back, and she was supposed to pick the children up at your mother's house.
Yes.
Brought the kids back to your mother's house, and now you're going to tell me what happened.
I was in bed because I had to get up at 5 to go to work, and I heard noise coming from my garage, and I got up to go see what had happened, and I saw my daughter-in-law, Lori, pulling the children out of my son's car, which was also inside my garage. and they were having a verbal argument, and I asked them to stop. My grandchildren were crying. My youngest granddaughter had walked around the back of the car, and I had picked her up and was comforting her, and I was on the other side of my two-car garage from the adults that were having the argument.
The adults were just your son and your daughter-in-law?
Correct. Then I saw Lorraine out in her car, which was parked out on my sidewalk. She had followed Lori in her car, I don't know why. And I was thinking, oh good, Lorraine can come up and take the grandchildren from me and just let Lori and Michael do their bickering, because they were just verbally arguing. When I went to turn to hand her Anna, my granddaughter.
How old is Anna?
2. That's when she sprayed me right in the face. And she intentionally did that because she also sprayed the back of my brand new car. And I had Anna in my arms when she did that. I have a police report here of what had happened. I also have a doctor's report here of the severity of the burns themselves.
Where on your face were you burned?
I was burned all the way down here, and it caused blisters. My nose was bleeding for like 2 weeks. It wouldn't stop because of the burns in this side of my nose. And this eye, it hit my eye just a little bit, which was really good because I had a severe reaction to the spray itself.
So what happened after you were sprayed?
After I was sprayed, I went back in the house and tried to rinse it out. I called the emergency room immediately because that's where I work. And they told me to call poison control, which I did. And they said the same thing, just rinse it as much as you can. And that's what I kept doing.
Were the police called?
The police were called immediately.
Who called the police?
Michael did. And they actually got the whole argument on 911 tape because he dialed 911 immediately and laid the phone down in the garage. And then Lorraine got 2 of the children in her car and attempted to leave, and my son got in front of her car to stop her from leaving because we wanted the police to come. When the police arrived, they said that they could arrest her on the scene for what she had done because not only did she spray myself and put my grandchildren in danger, she sprayed my son Michael and his date, who is also listed on there. Then the police talked to us, and then the police talked to Lorraine, and they told us to think about it for a while because it was a family matter and we don't want to have this any worse than what it's been.
So tell me why you got involved with this return of the children.
Well, my daughter's divorcing him, as you know, and there's a restraining order because he has constantly stalked her. And he was arrested in March for stalking, terrorist, and 4 felonies. And this man will not leave her alone. And the only reason I went in there with the pepper spray is because I was afraid for their life. Those children were getting hurt. They were getting knocked on the ground.
Tell me what happened. Tell me your version of what happened.
My daughter called me and said he was drinking at a barbecue. He refused to bring the kids home. He didn't want to leave the party. He was having too much fun.
Okay. But he brought the children home at 8 o'clock. Is that right?
Well, he was a little bit late.
According to this, he was 15 minutes late, according to these papers. So he brought the children home approximately on time. And you waited in your car.
That's correct.
So you tell me, your daughter asked you to come just to be there for her, I assume.
Yes.
Tell me what you observed from the car. Make sure I hear the truth.
Okay, he pulled up in the car. He had the children in there and his girlfriend in the car. He pulled the car up into the driveway. He locked the children in the car, refused them to give them to my daughter, antagonizing her.
Slowly. He had the children in the car.
Yes, he did. And he says, maybe I'll give you the children and maybe I won't.
Linda Stapp says during her grandchildren's visitation, former in-law Lorraine Bird pepper sprayed her in the face. Lorraine says it was an accident.
Tell me what happened.
His girlfriend got out of the car and still left the children locked in the car. The children were wanting out, and she was wanting the children, and they couldn't get out of the car. And his girlfriend served her with a paper. I don't know what it was.
Contempt of court.
Contempt of court paper. And anyways.
Just a second. Your girlfriend gave your wife some papers.
Yes.
During this exchange of the children.
Yes.
And what were these court papers?
Contempt of court.
What kind of contempt of court?
Lori did not show up with the kids on 2 of my visitation days.
When was that?
Of the papers right here.
When was that, sir? He can talk for himself. He's a big boy. He made 3 babies.
I'm sorry.
All right.
The dates were March 21st, and the other date was April 4th.
So you served her with a contempt of the order of visitation for
Yes.
failing to bring the children.
Yes.
What's your first name?
Excuse me?
What's your first name?
Michael?
Michael. Was not a smart idea to have your girlfriend serve your wife with court papers.
I agree. I agree now. I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but I do
No,
agree.
because you were thinking out of anger. You were thinking about getting even or something. She's got a restraining order against you, so you wanted to do this little thing. This would really get her goat if your girlfriend served her with papers. Come on, Michael.
It was the opportunity of her being there.
No, there's opportunity. She has 3 children. She's not going anywhere. I mean, you can get a process server to serve her with papers. Okay. What were you doing with the pepper spray in your possession?
I keep it for when I have to go out after dark. I've never used it. That's the only time I've ever used it.
It was a mistake to use it.
I know that, Your Honor. He finally went in the house. He come out, opened the garage door, then Miss Stapp finally came out of the house. She sat on the ground, was smoking a cigarette the whole time this fight was going on. She did not do anything until I got out of the car. When I
you
walked
say there
up
was
there,
a fight. They were
yeah,
yelling at each other.
They were pulling the children apart. He was grabbing the top torso of my son, pulling his arms out of his
Your
socket.
grandson, you mean?
Yes.
Let's start, sir, with at the moment that you pulled up in the car, your wife was there waiting for the children. What were the first words that were passed between the two of you?
The first words were, I'm ready for the kids. Can I have them now? I said, no, can you please wait? Let me pull my car in the garage and get their stuff out of the house, and then you can take them home.
Okay. She asked you for the children.
Yes.
You said no.
Yes. I said, could you please wait a minute and let me pull my car into the garage and get their stuff, because we had their overnight bags or their day bags, and I wanted to get all their stuff and get it all out to them at once.
Michael, this is all a question of control. You understand that, Mrs. Stapp, don't you?
Yes, I do.
I mean, let's try to make the 2 grandmothers at least be reasonable.
Yes.
She says, let me have the children. You say, no, when I'm ready. I'm going to leave them in the car now. First, I'm going to go get their bags. Could have been just as easy to say, take the kids, put them in your car, and I'll go in and get their stuff, and I'll bring it out to the car, to your car, right?
Yes.
But your girlfriend had papers to serve on her. Now, were the papers in your girlfriend's possession, or were they in the house?
They were in the house.
So when you went into the house, you weren't only getting the children's stuff, you were also getting the papers that your girlfriend had to serve, right?
Yes.
See, it's all coming together. You're not supposed to use the opportunity of exchanging children during visitation to serve papers or for any other purpose. The exchange of children is difficult enough during a divorce, during a separation, so that you're supposed to do everything that you can to minimize the trauma of going from one parent to another. You didn't do that, Michael.
No.
That doesn't excuse what you did.
I know that.
Okay. Do you have medical bills?
Yes, I do.
And he also broke my daughter's finger in the process.
Well, your daughter's not here.
I know. She wanted to be here on my behalf, but she was so terrified of this man. She is so scared of him. Thursday night, he tried to run her and the kids off the road.
Well, I don't know that since she's not here. Miss
Yeah.
Bird,
This is an item I stated.
all I can tell you is that these 2 people... How old were you when you got married, Michael?
I was 20 years old.
And how old was your daughter?
She was 20.
So they were 2 very young people who got married and made 3 children right away. And it looks to me, unless you 2 grandmothers get your acts in gear, they're going to make these 3 grandchildren emotional cripples over this stuff. You know, bottom line is, if he has certain faults, and I'm not saying he does, Miss Bird,
Yes.
but if he does have certain faults, your daughter picked him. And not only did she pick him, she made 1 child with him, she made another child with him, and she made another child with him. And he's going to be their father for as long as they live. Right?
Right.
So they have to make peace with each other. And if they're not grown up enough to make peace with each other, at least the 2 grandmothers would seem to me to contrive to give the children some comfort, some, emotional structure, rather than fighting with each other. It's ridiculous.
Linda Stapp wants medical bills plus pain and suffering from Lorraine Bird for pepper spraying her face. Lorraine says it was an accident.
Were you friendly with each other before this happened?
Yeah, we got along for the children and for the family's sake.
That's what you're supposed
to do. There was no
do.
bickering or fighting. But as it stands right now, when we went to court yesterday, she lost all of her visitation rights. Mike has none.
She lost all
She violated the visitation.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Again, Your Honor. They have no respect for the law.
You mean they violated it because she didn't supervise the visitation?
That's right.
Your Honor, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. I'm already filing a motion because we did arrive at the courthouse yesterday and Michael became very sick and we had to leave. The judge is aware of that and we're filing a motion to take care of that.
Okay. The problem is the judge has directed in that family court proceeding, I'm reading between the lines based upon my experience, that the only way that he can see his 3 children, because of whatever history the judge knows about, is if you supervise the visitation.
Which I do.
Well, you clearly didn't at this time.
Not on this day, but it was agreed.
I'm not sure it was agreed. 2 parties cannot agree to overrule a judicial determination. The judge has made a determination based upon the best interests of the children. Judge has made a determination that some other person be there to supervise and had enough confidence in you.
Right.
To say that other person was supposed to be you.
Right.
So at least on this occasion, and according to Ms. Bird on other occasions, your son saw the children, unsupervised by you, as a result of which he's now lost, albeit temporarily, his right to see his children, which is traumatic for him, but also very traumatic for the children.
Right.
I'm sure it is very traumatic for the children, Ms. Bird.
I know that.
I can understand that you feel as if they're my kids and I should be able to see them whenever I want to see them. But right now you have to swallow your pride, you have to swallow your ego, and you have to do what the court tells you to, because your children shouldn't feel as if you've abandoned them.
Right.
I agree.
And at their age, they won't understand this business about supervised, not supervised. All they will know is that their daddy doesn't see them anymore. So if the judge says to you, jump, you say, how high do I have to jump to see my children?
And I agree to do everything possible.
Yeah, well, stop telling me you agreed to do everything possible. You did a lot of things wrong, Michael. And your mother knows you did a lot of things wrong. But she looks like a nice lady. And so do you.
Thank you.
But you 2 ladies, I certainly hope can get it together. And even if you have to say to yourselves, listen, our kids have made their mistakes. I'm not going to take sides. I just want to be there for my grandchildren because they're the only innocents.
They're my #1 priority.
Well, they're supposed to be. Because he's cooked already. And if he's got certain problems, which only his mother knows, right, Mr. Stapp? He's got certain problems. He's going to have to deal with them. He made 3 children. He's supposed to be a good father.
And he is.
Well, I worry about that because he's done certain things that I hear about just today that show me that he lacks good judgment.
Well, there's problems on both sides.
I'm sure there are problems on both sides,
Yeah.
but this clearly is a lack of good judgment. Leaving your kids in the car to go inside to get copies of court papers so that your girlfriend can serve them on your wife during exchange of visitation when you're late anyway is not smart. How long were you out of work?
I missed 1 full day, which was the next day because of pepper spray in my eye, I couldn't see. And then I missed I worked 12-hour shifts in the emergency room. So
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a unit assistant.
What does that mean?
I do everything an RN does, but I don't do injections.
You're the adults, they're the children. Unfortunately, the children had children. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Thank you, Your
Parties are
Honor.
excused. You may step out.
Could I have my picture?
You must have had a pretty good time at the party because you got blotto drunk.
And then he had an accident that ruined his friend's couch.
How old are you?
I'm 23.
Nobody anticipates that a 23-year-old man is going to pee all over a couch.
He agreed and cashed the check. Having received and deposited the same,
There are a lot of does there. And I usually don't accept letters, But with all those does, I'm curious.
Party's on Moon versus Mohan. Step forward, please.
23-year-old student Alexander Moon is suing former friend, 23-year-old John Mohan, for destroying a designer couch after a night of heavy drinking.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is case number 23 on the calendar in the matter of Moon versus Mohan. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
He invited you to a party.
Correct.
At your house.
Correct.
And I assume from your papers that this is your roommate.
Yes.
And you had a great time at the party.
Incorrect.
Well, you must have had a pretty good time at the party because you got blotto drunk, according to the papers, his complaint and your answer. You fell asleep on and then relieved yourself on his couch.
True.
Ruining the couch.
I assume so.
You want the money for the couch?
Yes.
You've paid him $1,000.
Slightly over $1,000.
How slightly?
Yeah, I haven't calculated. It's something like $1,025.
And you want more?
Yes, the remainder plus aggravation and...
Listen, everybody's aggravated. I'm aggravated. Bird's aggravated. Everybody's aggravated. But you don't want to aggravate me. That would be a very bad thing to do. So let's just talk about the couch.
Mm-hmm.
How much more do you want for the couch?
Subtracting his $1,000, it would be roughly $2,300.
Show me the bill for the couch.
I have it right here. The total being $3,139.
Let me see.
And it's right there.
So to completely redo this couch, reupholstery, padding, cost you $3,100.
Correct.
You must have had a lot to drink.
I certainly did.
So now, tell me your defense to this additional $2,000.
I'm confused on a number of issues, but first of all, Gene, Alex's roommate, said it was going to cost roughly $3,000. I gave him $140 in cash, which I have a bank receipt for. I bought him a microwave oven on a credit card for $173 and some change. I did 1 day's work for him, helping him move his mother's apartment or something like that, which he said the fee would be $50 that he would deduct. And I also rented a budget truck to help him with that, which was approximately $50. And so that totaled somewhere around $400. He wanted more quickly. There was no way I could raise it. He insisted that I call my father to try and get the money from him. Gene and my father spoke over the telephone. My father said he was not going to pay $3,000. I guess Alex and my father spoke. My father said that they're being ridiculous in their demands, that he was going to handle this. Apparently, Alex agreed upon a sum of $625 because I have a check here for $625, a photocopy of a check. The note says, for John's accident, paid in full, written 1/30/98.
Can I see it?
You certainly can. And Alex cashed that check and signed it on the bottom, ostensibly to give to Gene. Now, I don't understand why Alex is suing me since it was Gene's property that was damaged. I further don't understand if the couch was so expensive that Gene insisted I sleep on that couch instead of the less expensive couch, which was downstairs. This couch was in Gene's room.
I could explain that, Your Honor.
It doesn't make any difference because nobody, how old are you?
I'm 23.
Because nobody anticipates that a 23-year-old man is going to pee all over a couch. So it doesn't make any difference, sir, whether you slept on the upstairs couch or the downstairs couch. It's not something, we usually don't put a nappy on somebody who's 23. When his father sent you this check, did you see a notation, paid in full?
It was on the bottom of the check. It said payment for the couch, and he said to me on the phone that he wanted this to be final, and I said, "Sorry, sir, but it won't be because there is more money owed." And he may believe that that was the final payment, but I had warned him that it wouldn't be because it was going to incur, as you can see on the invoice, additional money.
That's not what I asked.
That's untrue, Your Honor.
Just a second. That's not what I asked you. So what you're saying is you saw the notation on the bottom of this memo that said, for John's accident, payment in full. You saw that?
Yes.
Then you should have returned the check.
It was my responsibility to take care of this couch because it was my party and John was my guest. So that is why I had to I mean, I'm a student. I'm in graduate school right now. I'm on an extremely limited budget. Any monies that come in, I had to use towards replacing this couch, because this couch had been put on a rush order. It was a gift for Jean's mother, and John had agreed the morning of the accident that yes, indeed, he would pay for it in full. And he has.
Did you agree to that, sir?
I said I would try and pay. I said we'd have to work out some sort of installment plan because I could not raise that $3,000 that quickly.
Mr. Mohan.
Yes.
You think it's reasonable that he should be out of pocket $2,000 for your accident?
I think it's unreasonable that he. First of all.
No. Do you think it's reasonable that he should be out an additional $2,000 for your accident? Do you think it's fair?
I paid what was agreed upon. Now, if he.
Just a second.
Yes.
When was this couch purchased, sir?
This couch was purchased in August of last year, one before, and I had it reupholstered in handmade linen to give to my mother. And there's a matching chair and ottoman that goes with it that does not match the couch anymore.
Alexander Moon says John Mohan, after a night of heavy drinking, seriously damaged roommate Jean Yee's designer couch.
Does your mother have the couch now?
The couch is waiting for the chair and the ottoman because after we had it redone, the batch of the linen, the new batch of linen that we got does not match now the chair and ottoman, so I have to pay out of my own pocket to match the chair and ottoman.
And then it's going to your mom?
It's going to, yeah, and then it's going to cost a little bit more, but I have not asked John Mohan to pay that. I also talked to John's father, and the reason it says paid in full is because John's father said that that is all we're going to get out of him. And the reason I insisted on John paying full amount is because it's his responsibility, not his father's. And it's also a Philip Morris couch, brand new, to replace it. That's just to refurbish it. The couch is $9,400. The chair and ottoman is close to $6,000.
God, I never owned such an expensive piece of furniture. I wouldn't let anybody even sit on it, no less
They
someone
weren't
was
allowed
drunk.
in my room. I did not insist him to be up there.
That's untrue. We were allowed in his room.
Listen,
yes.
Stop making excuses.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to refute.
Well, so let's get down to my question.
Certainly.
You think it's fair that either one of these two gentlemen should be any more out of pocket than they already are because you couldn't control your bladder?
I don't think it's fair. No.
Well, that's what's supposed to happen in a court. What's supposed to happen in a court is what's fair.
Well, first of all, I have here, my father could not be a witness today because he's in Boston. But I have here that what he told me from their conversation is that having received this check, I sent him this check with a special notation. I specifically pointed out to Alex Moon that I will not send any more money to him or anyone else, including Jean, if the $625 is cash. He agreed and cashed the check. Having received and deposited the same.
Let me. There are a lot of does there. Huh? I don't like does, and I usually don't accept letters, but with all those does, I'm curious. Dear son. No, there's no question that if I called his father, according to this letter, his father would say that he considered his $625 payment in full. I, however, am considering it payment in full by his father.
Exactly.
Your Honor, I have a question.
Because, Mr. Mohan,
yes,
I think it is totally irresponsible of you to even question the fact that You damage this man's property. This man's property. It's going to end up costing him far more than the additional $2,000 that he's requesting because he has to have 2 other pieces of furniture reupholstered. He's not asking to be compensated for that, although he very well could ask to be compensated for that. But it seems to me a 23-year-old man should take responsibility for what he does. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,100. Thank you very much. That's all.
Please excuse, you may step out.
You know, I'm still taking a loss from this. I'm still feeling the effects of, you know, something that John had done.
It severed a relationship, it strained our relationship, and I'm glad that it's finally over and we don't have to see him anymore.
Our friendship is essentially finished.
Parties on Show TV a lot versus Valentine. Step forward, please.
Loretta Shotivia-Rutt and her 20-year-old daughter, Teresa, are suing Tim and Cynthia Valentine for kicking their car in a fit of road rage.
Who were the drivers of these 2 cars?
That would be Ramtin Mogadam.
So you can sit down. You step up here. Sit down. You were driving?
Yes, ma'am.
Is your wife?
Yes.
Have a seat. Okay. Who are you?
I own the car.
But you weren't there?
No.
Okay. You were driving, according to your complaint, your girlfriend's car.
Right.
That's your girlfriend.
Right. Or ex.
But she doesn't own the car. It's her mother's car.
Right.
You didn't know this gentleman. You're tooling along. He's tooling along, driving with his wife.
Right.
And you get into one of those male macho things on the road. So why don't you start from the beginning and tell me where you were going and what happened, sir?
Well, I was going back to her house and pulled up behind him at the light. And he pulled through the light, and then he pulled into the shoulder. I guess I was too close behind him. And so I passed. And then he got out behind me again, and he started flashing his lights and followed me for like a mile, flashing his lights and like staying close, like turning everywhere I turned. And so I pulled over before I got to her house because I was afraid, you know, I didn't know who it was or what was going on. So pulled over, and then he kind of like parked in front of the car like to block it. And he came out of the car and he was like, you know, swearing and stuff and threatening me. So I got out and to like calm him down because he was like right there. And
what was he saying to you, sir? When he got out of the car?
He said he was sick of like these kids driving around here thinking they're cool. And I said, I don't know, you know, I hadn't ever seen him before. And so then I like offered my hand to shake his hand, and he said he wasn't gonna shake my hand. And so I kind of said something rude, and then he came, kicked the door, and jumped in his car and took off.
And that's what this lawsuit is about, because he kicked the door of the car and there was damage to the car.
Right.
Loretta Shotivia-Rutt and her 20-year-old daughter, Teresa, are suing Tim and Cynthia Valentine for kicking their car in a fit of road rage.
Your turn.
Your Honor, my wife and I were coming home from dinner, driving on a 2-lane road. This gentleman approached at a high rate of speed, flashed his lights, honked his horn, and went by and waved his IQ, as I wrote in my report, I believe, giving us the finger. And
so you were driving and he wanted to pass you. You weren't going fast enough. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we were doing the speed limit. I think it's 25 in the area. It's actually 30. Yeah, 25 or 35 in the area. And so when he went by and did all this, I said to myself and to my wife, I said, you know, I'm sick of this. So we followed him, flashed my lights to get him to pull over, got out of the car. We exchanged some words. My wife got out of the car with me. And
did your wife get out of the car to help you or to stop you?
Yeah, stop him.
Miss Valentine, you don't have to answer that question. You want to know why you don't have to answer that question?
Why?
Because I already know. Right?
Right.
Because you said to him, forget it, don't do it. Right?
Right.
Men have replaced wars with road rage. They somehow consider it an affront to their manhood. Right? If somebody cuts them off or not going fast enough or whatever. Okay. So now you're both out of the cars. And your wife got out of the car to calm you down.
Perhaps.
No.
Perhaps.
Shh. Hey.
Sorry. So we continued to exchange verbiage. Thinking it was all done, we returned in the vehicle to leave. At that time, he made a couple of remarks to me about being an old white man.
which got me a little bit upset. Went back to the door and confronted him face to face. He's sitting in the car. At this time, he's swinging the door open to get out, and I put my foot up to block the door, and I guess this is where $1,100 of damage took place.
Did you, how shall I put this in a genteel fashion, did you finger gesture to him
No,
as
I
you
did
were
not.
passing him in the car?
I didn't even know why he was pulling over. I didn't even realize I was following him that closely. We were at a stoplight. We had just passed through the stoplight.
Not sure about that. In any event, how old are you?
I'm 21.
And how old are you?
49.
In retrospect, sir, this was a very foolish thing to do, right? You want to know why? Because he looks like a nice young man, 21 years old, but he could have been one of those nut jobs who has a gun in the glove compartment or a knife, and which is why your wife came running out after you. So, I mean, you took a risk. And there's one thing in taking a risk for yourself. You took a risk for her. So that was a very foolish thing to do. Let me see the estimates for the car. You have any photographs of the car?
Yes, I do.
Ooh, you were really angry. Ooh.
I must have a big foot.
What?
I must have a big foot, I guess, according to the $1,100.
Ooh, did you see these pictures?
No.
Ooh. Mr. Valentine, bottom line is you have to pay for the damage. You can't avoid paying for the damage. You did it, and you had no right to do it, and you shouldn't have been vigilante. But I want to talk to your wife for a second. Come up here. When you started to follow, when you saw that your husband started to follow him, what did you say to him? Do you remember?
Not exactly, but probably don't bother. He's not worth it. It's not worth it. Because I didn't know it was a male in the car.
She's right.
Because he didn't even see me, and I didn't give a finger.
Listen to me. Listen to me, sir.
Right.
You know, this is a good lesson for you. He's got to pay this bill. But it's a good lesson for you that if, especially if you're driving somebody else's property,
Not to pull
you're
over.
supposed to be responsible with it. Right?
Right.
Good. The estimate is $1,023 for the car. Your lawsuit requests $1,100, but you're not really requesting $1,100. You're requesting what it's going to cost to fix it, right? You got it, $1,023. Thank you, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The damn them pole. So he went on and on. They called me Bad Ricky. Don't you know who I am? I ain't heard no Bad Ricky. Well, I'll tell you, I'm the baddest.
He deliberately ran over the fisherman's poles with his boat.
It doesn't make any difference.
Because you don't care, Joe. Here's your pictures here, too.
Bert.
Bert, do what you gotta do, Bert.
One more word. He goes.
Parties on Cowherd versus Smith. Step forward, please.
James Cowherd claims 47-year-old Ricky Smith assaulted him and snagged his fishing pole. Ricky says James was fishing on a private lake and he had been warned not to trespass.
Order. All rise. Now it's case number 129 on the calendar in the matter of Cowherd versus Smith. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Smith, you have a home on a lake.
Yes, I do.
Where is it located?
Indianapolis, Indiana.
How many homes are on the lake?
About 35 now. It's going to be 38.
Is it a full-time residence?
Right, right.
And you believe that this is a private lake?
I believe I got court statements filed by the court and by our builder.
That it's a private lake?
Definitely.
Mr. Cowherd, according to your complaint, you knew for a long time that this was a private lake, but then you found out that the lake was no longer a private lake.
Right.
And you like to go fishing.
I do.
So you took your boat and went fishing.
No, I was fishing from the bank.
How do you get down to the bank of this lake?
Well,
the area that's belongs to the park department, you can walk through it and come around the bank and fish.
So there's a park property.
Right.
And when did you start fishing on this lake?
Probably in April.
And you never fished there before because it was private?
Right.
What made you think you were allowed to fish there now?
Well, I had a newsletter that come around in my neighborhood, Devon Neighborhood Association, and when they send the letter out to me, I read it, and so I went fishing.
Okay, can I see the letter, please? So you're fishing off the bank. Were you by yourself?
I had a friend of mine was fishing with me.
And what happened, sir?
Okay, we'd been over there fishing 2 or 3 times, and every time we'd go fishing, the sheriff would come and run us away. So I explained to the sheriff that we had a right to fish there because the property had been deeded over to the park department by Mr. Davis, the man that built the home. But they wouldn't listen to what we had to say. They'd go on and make us leave and said, no, we couldn't fish there. So after that, we went back again. And so Mr. Smith here, he came over in his boat. We was fishing there, and I had my lines out in the water. Well, he came and cursed us all out and told us, get off from over there. If he ever catches over there again, he'd come through the woods, take a 2x4, knock us in the head, knock us in the water, all the things that he would do to us. And he went on for about a half an hour, 45 minutes long, there on the bank. Meantime, before he started doing all that, he took his boat and went around and around in the water and pulled our poles in the water. So we lost our poles, so we couldn't fish any longer.
You mean because his boat was going around and around and caught the lines?
Right.
The boat caught the lines.
Right. So I told him, I said, well, you don't pull the poles in the water. He said, damn them poles. You ain't got no business over here, and I don't want to catch you over here again. If I do, I'm going to hurt you. I will hurt you. Said, the rest of the homeowners, they've been calling the sheriff on you, but you evidently you haven't heard of me before. They call me Bad Ricky. Don't you know who I am? I ain't heard no Bad Ricky. Well, I'll tell you, I'm the baddest. I'm the baddest thing in Indianapolis. I said, well, so I don't know no Bad Ricky. So he went on and on. So then when he left with the boat, well, we left. So I called the sheriff after he done threatened to knock us in the head with a 2x4, that he'd call his partners in on us, that he'd get some dogs and run us out from over there. I wanted to report it because, you know, in case something happened, and they said, well, why did all this go on and you didn't report the thing to some authority?
How old was the gentleman that you were fishing with?
He was about 47.
And how old are you, sir?
62.
How old are you?
45. I'm old enough to read.
Let me ask you this question. This whole lake, how long a lake is it, by the way?
33 acres.
So it's a pretty big lake.
Right, right.
There's no other house where he's fishing. He's not standing in somebody's backyard.
No, but he's standing right in front of a sign that said, he was standing right in front of the sign right there that said, no soliciting, private lake, no fishing, no swimming, no boating, and no skating.
Mr. Smith, listen to what I said to you.
Yes.
I had a question. Give me an answer. He's standing at an area where there is no house.
Right.
So he's not in somebody's backyard.
Right.
Okay. What's the big deal?
This is all private, man. Wait, man, Judge.
No.
People,
what I'm asking you is, what's the big deal?
Well, the big deal is, first, me and my wife, we have worked hard our life, saved to buy this fabulous home on the lake, private drive, private residence. Nobody wants to be bothered with nobody. Okay, back on the backside, there's a walking trail, which was deeded to the, like I said, to the Parks Department, but just to walk, not to be, the fish, the lake, we have to pay to have the lake sprayed, and something happened to him, we got to pay for that because we insure all that land around there.
Just a minute. Let me read first what this newsletter says.
Excuse me, Judge. Can I say something, Judge? Anybody can go to Kinko's and make up something. Mail it out to people.
No, he didn't go to Kinko's to make this up, sir. May not be correct.
Yeah, right.
Listen to me. It may not be correct,
right,
but he didn't go and write this up himself. So let me read what it says. Okay. Did you ever see this, sir?
No.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to read you.
I know what it says, ma'am.
Well, I'm going to say.
Definitely don't have nothing to do with Mallard Lake.
No, listen to me. Is the name of your lake Mallard Lake?
Yes, it is.
Okay. This says, and it deals with Mallard Lake. The original agreement permitting a private park for the homeowners in the development is no longer in effect. The property has been deeded to the city, and the public has every right to be there.
James Cowherd says he was fishing in a public area when Ricky Smith assaulted him and snatched his fishing pole. Ricky claims it was a private lake and James shouldn't be there.
Now, let me ask you this question, Mr. Cowherd. You were told, and I'm not excusing what happened here, you were told by the sheriff to leave how many times?
About 3 times.
And despite the fact that you were told by the sheriff to leave 3 times, you continued to come back. That wasn't a smart thing to do.
Well, okay, when I came back, it was another letter that it came out. This was the second copy that came out. So that's when I went back again.
Let me see.
Keep goals again.
Mr. Smith, you're being
sorry,
ridiculous,
Judge,
sir.
but, you know what I mean.
You're being ridiculous, sir.
But I got letters, stuff here.
I'm going to read your
you
letter,
know.
sir. So this is from the Devon Neighborhood Association, which clearly again says that it had been agreed by all parties that bank fishing would be permitted from non-residential areas of the lake. Fishing from a boat would be prohibited. Even if this agreement had not been reached, bank fishing is permitted since the park site has been deeded to the city. So he had some reason to believe, based upon the newsletter from his neighborhood association, that he had every right to be in this area. Now I'm going to see your evidence, sir.
There you go. There's everything. File stamp copies from the court, stuff from the builder. We highlighted a lot of stuff for you, Judge.
Look, do you have anything after 1995, sir?
Well, see, those are, we do, ma'am. We do.
Just show me.
It's right in there.
Can I come up as a witness?
Find it. Who are you?
I'm his wife, but then I'm the treasurer of the Mallard Lake Homeowners Association. The letter that you have right there from Davis is to his homeowners association in response to the newsletter. Our homeowner association has been going around and around with theirs, indicating that we do have a private lake. It is for use of residents only, and we don't want anybody else using that for liability reasons, etc., and privacy issues. And then that letter that you're looking at was sent to their homeowners association in response to those 2 newsletters saying the information that they printed is incorrect.
Well, this is but this isn't from an official. This is from a builder.
Ma'am, we build these homes on private lakes. Nobody go spend all this money to build on a private lake.
But they do make the
issue
issue
ma'am.
that
If you look at the file stamp copies, it's showing you before we build our home, all those things was given to us on 1995. That's why it's 1995. It's file stamped by our court stating that the lake is private. There is a walking trail back here, but nobody else can use the lake. It's filed in there by our courts right there.
And if you look at the plans and covenants from 95, what it shows is the homeowners association owns, and they call them lake easements, the lake and the homeowners. And then they separately deeded that part in the back that's listed as park property. The park owns up to the lake easement. After the lake easement, then that becomes Mallard Lake.
What to me is sad is that you acknowledge that there is part of the property surrounding the lake that is public property, that is a park.
Just a strip in the back.
This is a strip of land.
Whatever it is, it's a strip of land.
Right,
Is it bigger than that desk?
Right, but it's not for fishing.
Just a second. Is it bigger than this desk?
Well, it's a strip of land going around
It's a strip of land,
Right.
a walking trail that goes around.
Right.
And your position is that it does not extend to the shore of the lake.
It does not. It stays right in there.
Just a second. It doesn't extend to the lake. That's your position.
Yes, ma'am.
Quite frankly, I have no current document in front of me, either from Mr. Davis or from this. Just because Mr. Davis writes a letter, is Mr. Davis a city councilman? Pay attention!
Well, Judge,
pay attention!
Does it make a difference because he got a letter from King Coles?
Pay attention!
You're going to take his letter from some place that we live there, ma'am.
I want to tell you something. You got a hot temper.
No, whatever.
No, let me tell you
Just
something.
get
You
this
got a
over
hot temper, which suggests to me that his version of what happened with his fishing poles is exactly what happened. Because I was about to say to you, neither one of your documents is a legal document.
I don't have a hot temper, Judge.
Sir, Because you don't know how to be
Well,
quiet.
it don't make no difference, Judge. I'm
Because
not
you
wrong.
don't know how to be
Well, Judge,
quiet.
can I ask you a question? Don't
No,
you ever
I
have-
don't answer questions,
Well,
sir.
forget it,
I
then.
ask
Well, forget it.
questions.
It's over, man. Forget it.
I ask questions.
Well, ma'am, nobody spends all this money to live on a lake and to be bothered with this, ma'am. I'm just trying to explain my case to you. You got stuff filed by our courts, by Indiana courts up there, ma'am. You're not even reading them.
For the development.
You know, you're going to tell me. Forget it. Don't worry about it. It's over. Don't worry about it. That's all right. I mean, you know what I mean? You know, anybody know who's going to spend all this money to build a nice house on the lake? And you got people, somebody like this come over, sitting out there with a pole fishing. Okay, don't worry about it. I may be wrong.
Let me tell you, why it doesn't make any difference.
Because you don't care, Judge. Here's your pictures here, too. Bert, do what you got to do, Bert.
One more word, he goes. One more word, he goes.
James Cowherd says he was fishing in a public area when Ricky Smith assaulted him and snatched his fishing pole. Ricky claims it was a private lake and James shouldn't be there.
What Mr. Smith fails to understand is he may be right and he may be wrong. He has no right to disturb your property. His recourse, if you are trespassing on the property, is to call the local authorities and have you removed.
We did, ma'am.
Well, you did, and it didn't work, so you decided to do what you did yourself.
I did not, ma'am. I just happened to be pulling down the lake on my big, long, 20-foot boat, and then I didn't see no fishing poles in the water. How I got a 20 big old long boat? I'm sitting way in the back. I'm gonna see some poles in the water.
You have bills for the fishing
I'm just
poles?
sorry. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm gonna see some poles in the water. I'm down a 20-foot boat. Did you see my sign? You have to look at my pictures?
I don't care about your pictures.
That's what I thought.
Bottom line is, you decided that since you weren't
I
getting
did not.
satisfaction from the sheriff's department, you were going to take care of it yourself.
I called the sheriff.
$227.70 for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You know,
I'll
people
be back
work
with you right here.
People work out, they have lights on the house, you know, lake on the, you know what I mean? What do you do? Bums come and fish on your property. Y'all see that, don't you? I live on a lake, man. I got something. He's a bum. He's a bum. He shouldn't be over here. If you want to fish for food, let him go buy food. It's a private lake, sir. If you live on a private lake, you won't want anybody over there.
I just wanted to have a day in the court with Mr. Rick. Yeah, I'm going to fish there again, even if I have to call the sheriff and they have to go with me.
Parties on Fogliandini versus Plummer. Step forward, please.
Nurse Karen Fogliandini says former boyfriend and aspiring opera singer Steve Plummer owes her for a $2,500 loan. Steve says it was not a loan. It was money in exchange for staying at his place.
You were dating each other for a while?
That's correct.
Correct. You lent him $2,500 to fix his car?
Correct.
He didn't pay you back?
Correct.
Okay. And Mr. Plummer, I read your answer, sir. And you acknowledge the fact that she gave you $2,500? Because I found this sort of curious. Said she offered me the money, and you said that we would work it out later, paying her back.
I didn't say that. She did.
She did.
Yeah, that's correct.
And you took the money under those conditions, that you would work out later paying her back, correct?
I didn't say that.
Whether you said it or not. She said, here's the money, and we'll work out a payment plan later.
Well, we'll work something out later. It wasn't a payment plan, but it was to work out
Just a
something
second.
later.
What did you think she meant when she said, we'll work it out later?
Well, I don't know. You could...
Order.
Just a minute. What did you think she meant, sir?
I felt it was a gift.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Wrong.
No.
If somebody says, here's the money you asked me for, and we'll work it out later, and you accept the money, she's made it clear to you that she expects that money back.
And he had mentioned on numerous occasions that he had every intention of paying it back.
But then he had second thoughts. In your answer, you say, in thinking back, I feel the money was given to me in lieu of having a place for her to come to in the marina. Why don't you tell me about that?
She bought a home in Oxnard at the time we met. I couldn't come to see her in Oxnard if I didn't have a vehicle that was running. When the fact came that I said, you know, my car is not running, it's not working, well, let me give you the money.
Let me lend you the money.
Just a second. Just a second.
No.
Let me give you the money.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
I did not want to accept the money. I didn't want to complicate the relationship. So I decided, I thought about it, And I turned her down at one time. I said, no, I don't want to accept the money. She insisted on taking.
So you're how old are you?
40.
So you didn't want to accept the money.
Right.
And she overpowered you.
Well, I don't look at it as overpowering.
Well,
there are many reasons why people
give. If you didn't want to accept the money because you didn't want to complicate the relationship, something must have happened, Mr. Plummer. Go ahead.
Okay. She needed a place to come back to in the marina in the Los Angeles area. She was on call in medical business. She needed also to come back several days a week and be there in the morning. And I felt for her to drive all the way back. This came up later in the whole scenario. Rather than drive all the way back to Oxnard, she needed a place to come back. And she had mentioned to me on the phone even, well, look, maybe we can work out that $2,500. I'll give you such and such amount of money per month if I can stay in your place so I don't have to drive all the way back to Oxnard.
Does that conversation sound familiar to you?
It's been a little convoluted. The fact was, we did discuss this, but we were not together at that point. He did not have a place for me to stay because he was not living there by himself. So in the meantime, we did actually split up. We were no longer seeing each other after May. He continued to say that he would pay me back.
Now, just a second. When did you lend him the money?
February the 10th. I have the check here.
Okay. And when did you have this conversation with him about perhaps using his apartment when you were coming into town, into the marina area?
Once his apartment would have become available. He was expecting after May or so to have no roommate.
Okay, so it was possibly in the future that you said that you would be amenable to working off this $2,500 by using his apartments a couple of days a week.
Correct.
But that never came to pass.
That never came to pass.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Most of it.
Good.
You know,
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.